Well, good afternoon. We have just become a quorum. I'd like to welcome you to the March 22nd Oklahoma City Planning Commission meeting. And first, ask if you have cell phones or pagers, if you would silence them now. If you are not the applicant and you are here to talk to us about a case and haven't done so and would like to address us, if you'd fill out a sheet like this, they're on the table outside the chambers, and we would be happy to hear you. First order of business is the agenda for March 8th. Motion to approve. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Minutes, cast your votes. And that's approved. Continuance request, Russell?
We have 6 unrequested requests for continuance. Item 18 is PUD 1453. Item 19, PC 10300. Item 20, C 6332. Item 21, PC 10303. These are all requests to continue until April the 12th. Item 22 is SPUD 623, and item 23 is CE 821. Request to continue until April the 26th.
Is there anyone here today who came to address us on any of the items just read on our agenda, 18 through 23?
Move the uncontested continuance.
A motion and second to approve the continuances. Cast your votes, and they're approved.
There are 4 new requests for continuance. Item 8 is SPUD 653. Request to continue until April the 12th. Item 11, SPUD 658, a request to continue until April the 12th. Item 12, SPUD 659, request to continue until April the 12th. And item 16, C 6333, request to continue until April the 26th.
Item 16 is Lone Oak, and a number of you have signed up to address us on item 16 today. Is a continuance agreeable to those of you who have signed up, or would you like to address us? Come to the microphone, please, if you want to address us.
I would say the continuance is okay with me. My name is Russ Woody.
Okay. Mr. Woody, anyone else who... Give us your name and address, please.
I'm Tanya Shirallo from 14801 Remington Way.
Okay, thank you.
And we would like to ask that the continuance be extended to perhaps 60 days to give us more time to study. We've just received notice of this development.
My recollection is it's been on our agenda for, let me go back and look, but back in January or February 16, February 23rd.
As I
and you've just got
understand,
notice?
we have not received any notice, sir. No. And we only found out from a school board member that he had received notice, that who lives in our neighborhood.
Well, I'm assuming then that people who were within the appropriate radius for notice received it. It wouldn't have been everybody in your neighborhood if you're beyond a certain distance.
I understand, but as I understand that the proper notice would have been back in perhaps 1999, whenever the zoning was changed. So I'm not sure that any notice was required of anyone in our neighborhood, but nevertheless, it deeply impacts our homes as we are very flood prone, and I understand that this building is to be proposed upon a floodway and a floodplain. So we just are please requesting that we have more time to discuss the impact of primarily just the flooding issues in our neighborhood.
Okay.
We have many homes that are adjacent to Bluff Creek, and presently our storm sewers are over flooded. I mean, we really do have a flooding issue in Remington and the other adjacent neighborhoods, Monticello and Lone Oak East, or Lone Oak Park.
Okay. Brian? Excuse me, he's the applicant, so we'll hear from him as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What you commented earlier was right. The notice went out in January of this year. It was supposed to come up to February meeting, of which time we continued to complete the traffic impact analysis. That was done and turned in on March 12th. The flood study has been turned in and been reviewed by the city. It has already been back to our office and revised, and now it's back in the city's hands again. It's 5 weeks till the meeting you're requesting continuance, and my door is wide open. I've talked to several people. I've got information sitting out on the table in front of my office for people to come by and get, and it's set there for probably a week at this point. And I've told this attorney, we've already talked today, I'll be very available to talk to whoever I need to talk to, but I think that 60 days is way too long. I think 5 weeks we can have a lot of good meetings. The neighbors to the north have already reviewed our flood study, so the information's been there, and I agree there's some neighbors probably didn't get noticed, but they're outside of that limit. So I think 5 weeks. We'd like to just stay with the 26th of April.
Have there been any neighborhood meetings?
No, sir. No, sir. I've talked to several of them. I don't know if there's a neighborhood committee or a neighborhood association. I would be more than happy to meet with them before that.
That's why I'm asking the question.
I'll be glad to do that. And like I said, I've talked to several of them already, and in the Lone Oak subdivision to the west. So,
Do you have a neighborhood association? Okay, would you get with Mr. Kuhn and try and at least exchange contact information so that possibly a neighborhood meeting could be arranged? Thank you. Comments from commissioners?
Well, if we go ahead and continue it until the 26th, and if they don't get together and everything, we could continue it again, I guess. So I'll move that we continue it till April the 26th.
Second.
As requested.
I would agree with that. Hopefully, 5 weeks is enough time to work out and study whatever needs to be studied. If we get to the 26th of April and there's good reason why that wasn't enough time, you're right, we could continue it again. So I agree with that.
I think, if we're going to meet, which I certainly think we should, sooner rather than later, and I wonder if it might be helpful to ask someone from staff to participate in that so that the neighborhood's not just hearing it from the engineer for the, applicant, but someone maybe that they feel is a little more neutral.
Well, I think Janice saying that's a good idea, and I'd like to have either Adair or Curtis from Public Works, who have the drainage experience, to participate in those discussions.
I will notify them when the meeting is.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to continue this to May.
April
Where am I?
26th.
April. It's not that early in the day. April 26th. Cast your votes.
John, I'm not sure we've heard from everybody who wants to be heard.
Oh, I asked that, and you didn't.
Oh, sorry, I was waiting until she was...
Well, we did vote. But
so it's after the fact?
yeah, I apologize. I didn't realize that you wanted to. I didn't get any indication from you. You're free to address us.
Well, I will say I've got these available. My name is Jenny Massey, and I live at 14405 Fossil Creek Lane in Remington. We have just, last night, it's been a race since we heard about it, not from official notice, just from word of mouth, just a couple weeks ago. And so we have talked to neighborhoods nearby, and it's not just us that is concerned because we're all very, very affected by this. And I do have, and you may have already seen, but we have a floodplain overlay where 55% of the new houses are laying within that floodway. And I also have things that show, and there's more photos. We just have not had any chance to get our data together. Flooding right behind our home.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but you need to also get in touch with Mr. Kuhn.
Okay.
Have your neighborhood, if you have a neighborhood association, meet with him.
Well, and I was told that he was going to already have gotten in touch with me, and I haven't heard from him.
Well,
and the thing is that the reason we're requesting for the 60 days is so that rather than going 30 and then trying for another 30, is that we can be more organized in gathering our data and having our studies done. It's taken quite some time, apparently, for them to get the initial studies done. And we need to have equal time, or at least somewhere close to that, because we not only need to have that looked at, but we want independent opinions and studies on it, because we feel seriously at risk, not just a little. The question with the studies, from what we can tell, unless professionals show us otherwise, is that it's not a matter of if there's going to be flooding as a result of the construction and the fill that would be put in there. It's where that flooding is going to occur and which homes are going to be affected. The new homes, the Lone Oak existing homes, the Remington homes, we don't know all of that. We haven't been able to have anybody study the topography, and we're not aware of the changes that are going to be made. It's not just the flooding, but we're really concerned about the traffic and impact, which that can probably be a little easier dealt with and doesn't take as long. But the flooding is so complex, and so many agencies and so many knowledgeable people, we need to get in touch with that. 30 days is really, really going to be, most of us work. So, and we do care about our homes. We put hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in our home that somebody's apparently going to get ready to flood. So we want time to protect our homes. So that's why we're requesting the 60 days.
I understand. Thank you.
Has the existing flood study been made available to you?
No, none of us that have talked between our neighborhoods, none of us have seen it yet.
Not yet.
Brian, could you get that to him quickly? Thank you.
Ma'am, I might suggest to you also, if you're aware of other neighborhoods that are going to be affected by this, that you contact them as well and make sure that everybody participates in this process.
We have begun that process, and we have had a just small group meeting of some of the people, but we haven't had a time for any of our neighborhoods to become organized in the communication. And so yes, we would like to have everybody informed. We want each neighborhood to have some representatives that are in charge of gathering information and communicating information. And so all of that takes time.
I know that it does, but I think, 5 weeks is enough time to make a good start. Let's see where we are.
Okay. All right, thank you.
A comment about the radius of notification. We have now, 300 feet from the spot that you give notice, and isn't there a consideration to expand that to 500 feet, or am I making that up?
It's come up from time to time. I don't know, has there been any recent requests, JJ?
There'll be, an ordinance should be coming to the Planning Commission shortly right now the notice, you're required a minimum of 15 names, 1,000 feet or 15 names. There's an ordinance pending that would remove that 1,000-foot rule.
Well, I think
So you just keep going till you get 15 regardless.
But this particular project, while you may comply with the notice requirements, it seems as if there are other neighborhoods that are outside of the radius that are just as affected by the ones within the, whatever it is, 15 people or 1,000 feet. And maybe we ought to look at perhaps when, on a case-by-case method for notice that you notify neighborhoods that aren't within the radius, but that, like, the water flows down south. Take a look at maybe some words that would encompass that exception. I think this is an example of that.
Also, as a practice, if we know of a known neighborhood association and we have that contact and they're within that area, we try and notify that association.
Okay.
Well, we've had Bluff Creek issues before us before, and following up on your comment, Bob, where we are looking at a drainage area or something that is beyond what an immediate development might suggest, we should be looking at expanding our notice area. If you want to say something, you need to come to the microphone.
I just wanted to state that I believe this piece of property is very unique to the city of Oklahoma City because it lies at the furthest northern boundary for the city. So not only does this affect the people that are immediately upstream, but this affects the entire citizenry of Oklahoma City. And by effect allowing this development to happen without knowing what's going on further north, you're abdicating your responsibility to the citizens that all live further upstream from that. because that is the last place that you can perhaps have any authority over this floodwater. And so it's very critical as we sit there because, it just lies to the county just further north of us. And that's why we're asking, we need to know what's going on, what development is planned on further north, because if they pave all that area there, then it's all just going to back up. It's effectively a dam for our neighborhood. I mean, it's very scary. I live on an interior lot. I don't even have a waterfront lot, and my home has been so near flooding. So we have a tremendous water issue in this area. Like I said, this is the northern boundary of Oklahoma City. This isn't just any property. I mean, this is a very special, unique piece of property, and I believe it probably is one of first impression. And I think it needs to be carefully reviewed and carefully looked at, not just as previous other areas have been developed, but really as this is unique because this is the outside boundary for the citizens of Oklahoma City. And whatever happens to that water, you guys lose control over it when you let this go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just 1 second. I don't think that there's a person on the Planning Commission that's abdicating anything.
And I'm sorry, I didn't mean,
because
but
all we've done is continued it.
I understand,
we
but
haven't voted yes, no, or indifferent, whatever, and we're waiting for a great deal
I
more
apologize.
information. No, I'm just assuring you that we won't do that.
I understand, and that's what I'm saying. I implore you, please do not let another government authority have any jurisdiction over the water that affects my home as a citizen of Oklahoma City.
And everything else, but just be sure that you understand.
I understand, and I apologize for my strong language. I'm very passionate about my home, obviously, and so I apologize. I didn't mean to offend you all.
Perfectly fine. You didn't.
I apologize. But I just want you to please recognize
we're working the problem.
Is in peril there. It is our homes, and it is the northern boundary of Oklahoma City adjacent to a waterway. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Commissioners, we need to consider the other continuances, items 8, 11, and 12. For a motion?
Yeah.
Did we?
The date doesn't change.
Oh, okay, so we did.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry.
Oh, yes, you did.
Having done that.
Motion was just for item 16 earlier.
Oh, it was?
Right.
We have not voted on the
sorry.
others. Okay, so we need a motion on items 8,
11 and 12.
11, and 12.
So move.
Second.
Okay, we motion and second to continue the items. Cast your votes. They're continued.
And Mr. Chairman, I have a question. I'm sorry to be backing us up. But one of the uncontested continuances, item number 22, I have a question for the staff about it. I don't necessarily object to having it continued at all, but I have had a couple of inquiries about why it has been continued so many times, and I just wonder, do we have any prospect of actually having it heard? Is there any movement on the item at all?
No, not that we've heard from the applicant. We can suggest that next time, if something doesn't move, that we'll request an indefinite continuance.
At what point does that become a request for withdrawal? Okay.
It's up to you.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any additional continuance requests from the public? Okay.
We are on items requiring separate vote. Item 1 is DA 23475, an application by Chris Fleming to obtain a lot split deed approval on property at 430 Northwest 12th Street in Ward 6.
Good afternoon, David Box, 522 Colcord Drive, here on behalf of the applicant. Also with me is Chris Fleming today. Our application is for a lot split, and the reason that we are here is this lot split will break off a piece that will not have a frontage on a street. The reason we are doing this is to provide a parking lot to the apartment building at 12th and Walker. This is a financing requirement for the bank. This application went before the DDRC last week, and they recommended approval, and we are here seeking your approval.
Commissioners, no one has signed up. We have a variance to TE1.
Well, wait, why do you need I'm not sure I understand why you need a lot split for the parking lot.
The bank is requiring that we have a separate parking lot for the apartment building at 12th and Walker. And currently it's one lot that has the office further east of Walker and the parking, so we just need to split the lot off. My client actually owns both lots, and so there's already a cross-access agreement in place to serve the lot. So it was a bank required issue to have the parking, and the parking is right adjacent to the apartment building on 12th and Walker, if you've been out there to see it.
Well, if you split it, I mean, right now, your client has his office on 12th, right?
There is an office building on
Is that
12th,
right?
yes.
And this lot split is the one just to the south?
Correct.
The
We're
parking lot.
splitting that lot into two.
So, I mean, this is my question. I assume that the whole thing is zoned C3, I2, I don't know what
It's
the zone.
actually, I think it's DTB maybe, or DTB.
And so if we approve the variance, then that parking lot could convert to a business?
I think per the terms of the financing, it's got to remain a parking lot to serve the apartment building at 12th and Walker.
No, I understand that, but it just seems like that if we split the lot, and now it's zone C3 or I2 or something like that, and we approve the variance, that you don't have to have, you can go down the alley and pull up to a business in case that the apartment building goes away or something happens. Things will change in this part of the world, that you now have a piece of property separate that can be separately marketed that has an access, ingress, egress off of an alley that we've approved.
No, there's also, like I said, there's a cross-access agreement to the north, so that allows frontage onto 12th Street. They own both pieces of property, and there's already a cross-access agreement in place.
But now, wait, but just bear with me. If you sell the parking lot that you're splitting, your guy has his office on 12th. He's now got two lots. One he can market. If he doesn't want to deal with the apartment house, he can market that and have a business fronting on an alley that you can have an entrance on the alley. Is that right? I mean,
I don't believe so.
Am I all wet or what?
The zoning ordinance only allows access to an alley if it's secondary access. So the lot couldn't be developed any further for a primary use without a variance from the Board of Adjustment.
So if we approve this variance, it really isn't going to affect the commercial use of
This
that?
variance is strictly to the subdivision regulations. If they try to develop the lot, they would need a variance to the zoning ordinance as well.
Okay, all right.
Need a motion on the variance and then on the item?
I just have a quick question. What's the, are we normally accepting or receptive to requests from a financing company to tell us, I mean, that's what effectively what we're doing is we're letting the bank tell us how they want it. Is that, do we have
An obligation to do that?
do we have an obligation? Plus, the other thing I'm thinking is at some point, I presume this will be paid off and there will be no obligation to a financing company. I'm just curious if there's anything that before my time or before,
Well, I think what we have here is a building that was long forgotten, that was an eyesore to this corridor, and you had a company that came in and developed it with a unique rehabilitation project that has now created a great amenity for the area, and part of that, they need parking. So I think the question is what is appropriate, and I believe that this is appropriate, whether it's the financing company that drove it or the need for parking, it's an appropriate use. Staff has recommended approval, and I think no matter why we're here, we just have to ask what's appropriate, and I believe this is appropriate.
We have in the past, Todd, accommodated property owners and financial institutions to allow things to develop, for example. Nick, you have...
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think that the key here is the motivation of the owner applicant may be driven by his financing requirements or request. I don't believe it's our call to question someone's motivation when they bring an application to us. The applicant is bringing this application saying, I want to split my lot. That's what, whether he wants to split it for finance purposes, whether he wants to split it just because he thought it was a good idea that day. It comes to us to hear that on its merits and recommend approval or denial. And historically, since I've been here, no, I don't think we've ever had a policy for or against.
We haven't.
Such things.
We've just acted on individual items.
But again, it's the individual applicant and their application, not necessarily the motivation behind it.
Anything further? Commissioners, action? Motion on the variance first.
Move variance TE1.
We have a motion and a second to approve the variance TE1. Cast your votes. And the variance is approved.
Move the application.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 1. Cast your votes. And it is approved.
Thank you.
Item 2 is C6336. This is the final plat of Sonoma Lake Office Park in Ward 8.
Good afternoon, Kendall Dillon with Crafton Toll, representing the applicant. This is simply a final plat with 3 office lots. We're in agreement with the TEs, and we'd ask for your approval.
Commissioners, no one signed up.
Move approval.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 2. Cast your votes. And that's approved. Thank you.
Item 3 is C6319, a final plat of Deer Creek Village 5 in Ward 8.
Again, for the record, Kendall Dillon with Crafton Toll, representing the applicant. And again, another final plat. And we are in agreement with all of the TEs, and would ask for your approval on this one as well.
Again, no one has signed up.
Move approval.
I have one question. On the TE4,
Yes.
what's the answer to that?
It'll be stubbed at Northwest 154th Street, which is 1 street south of this section we're doing. I sent an exhibit and an email today to staff to let them know what our intentions were, where we're going to
Is
put
that where that curve, that corner is?
Right. If you look at the red dashed line on the south end of this existing section,
Yeah.
the 1 street south of that is Northwest 154th Terrace.
Yeah.
That will stub west into the undeveloped property.
Okay, but when the road goes that way, then that, whatever that lot is over there on the border would come out.
Goes away.
Right? Okay.
I was not involved in the preliminary plat when this one was approved, but I think what's happened is the plat submitted did not have the stub, and it was agreed to at Planning Commission that stub would be provided, but it was not specified where, so that's our intention.
Okay. Go ahead.
It appears from our, maybe that's just preliminary, I'm sorry, it appears from the drawing that I have, the map that I have here, that Capri Lane doesn't quite match up to Silvergrass Lane.
Right. It will. It's just the variation between 2 preliminary plats in your GIS system. When you put them in, they don't match up. But in practice, in the field, they'll line up.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve item 3. Cast your votes. And it's approved.
Thank you.
Item 4 is SPUD 657. It's an application by David McNeese to rezone 300 Northeast 62nd Street from R1 Single Family to SPUD 657 in Ward 7.
I'm David McNeese, and here to get this approved.
Your address?
Oh, it's 100 West Wilshire Boulevard.
Commissioners, no one has signed up.
I move approval.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve item 4. Cast your votes. It's approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 5 is ABC 754, application by Joe Youngman for an ABC 2, overlaying the Neighborhood Conservation and Urban Design Overlay District at 2912 and 2916 in Paseo, Ward 2.
Hi, I'm Joe Youngman.
Address for us, please, Joe, for the record.
Yes, Joe Youngman with Paseo Grill and Sauced on Paseo, 2912 Paseo Drive, 2916 Paseo Drive.
Thank you. No one has signed up. Are these intended to connect, these two operations, as I look at the diagram?
We might look into that eventually, but at this point, no. There'll be two separate buildings.
Okay.
Does the overlay include your patio area?
Yes, it would. It would include that patio area.
No one signed up, any?
I'll move approval.
Motion and second to approve item 5. Cast your votes. It's approved. Thank you, Joe.
Thanks.
Item 6 is SP 445. This is an application by the City Rescue Mission for a special permit to operate a facility to provide groceries to the needy in the DTD2, DP Downtown Transitional District and General Downtown Parking Overlay District at 829 West California Avenue, Ward 6.
Mr. Chairman, Dennis Fox. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, and I think Russell said it best. We're here to ask for your permission to have a grocery store to allow groceries for the needy. This will be just north of their campus. In looking at this, there was some question about whether it was allowed by right. The staff took the position that in order to ensure that the city was protected, it was best to come under this category. This category, we've eliminated any use that would be offensive and are just allowing for a grocery store.
No one has signed up, Commissioners?
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve item 6. Cast your votes. That's approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Item 7 is SP 446. This is an application by MLK 1948 Reno, LLC, and MLK 1948 Reno, LLC, number 2, for a special permit to operate a transportation facilities surface passenger bus terminal in the C4 General Commercial District at 1948 East Reno Avenue.
Is the applicant here?
7.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Roland Tague. I represent the proposed tenant. The applicant's attorney, John Swinford, is here as well. He just said, go ahead, tell you what you need to know. So
He threw you to the wolves, did he?
my address is 100
Mr. Chairman,
North Broadway.
pardon me, Nolan, the proper term, I believe, is under the bus for this one.
Under the bus.
You've seen me here before on a prior application. That did not work out. Actually, the owners of that location are here today, and they probably know better than I why that did not work out, but I think it was a business negotiation. It had to do with the lease. So we started searching for another location. The man from this particular area went to COTPA, see if it was possible that we could go in the current downtown bus terminal station. That they don't have space available. They have it full of city buses. There's, a proposal for an intermodal bus terminal. If you look on the Maps 3 project time, that's at the very end of the project time. We would like to be close to an interstate highway. Frankly, we searched as far as we could to find a place, and this is the place that came to us. It's a tight location, as you can see, but the fellow that does the design work for Greyhound has figured out a way to put the buses on one side of the lot, keep the passengers and the parking on the other side of the lot. The buses won't have to back out into traffic. There'll be space to be able to turn. There'll be a fence to keep the passengers away from the bus area and signs directing that they not drive through the bus area. This operation, I'm told, is called a kiss and ride in the vernacular of transportation. And that means that they drive, somebody is brought to the station, they get a kiss, and they get on the bus, and the person who brings them doesn't park the car, cars aren't parked overnight. In fact, there'll be signs that say towed, cars will be towed if they're parked overnight. So our parking needs are fairly minimal with this operation. I believe there are 18 buses a day that come and go over a 24-hour period. So that will give you some idea of the frequency or infrequency, I guess, is the way you would see it, of buses coming and going.
Well, it obviously is a heavily traveled area, and it is a tight spot. Our traffic people have looked at the site and think it meets the bus company's needs. They think it's as well designed as it could be and would accommodate the needs of Greyhound. So,
Well, you got the same email I did from our
I know,
colleague.
but I'm trying to tell you that I've talked to our traffic engineers since
And
receiving the email.
that was the point that James Williams, who's not here, asked that we address the traffic, and because, I mean, this is the way, when I looked at it as well, you're on Reno and Martin Luther King, and adjacent to this is the American Indian Center, 2 hotels, a travel center, truck stop, a lot of stuff. And also, this is an access road to the new I-40 connection. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on, and it just looked like it was a tight spot. But I'm not to second guess whatever your client thinks that he can put together here. And if traffic says that with 18 buses in a 24-hour day, isn't that what you said, Roland, 18? Is that right?
18. That includes Greyhound
And Trailways?
That's 2 of Jefferson lines.
Oh, yeah.
So not 20, but 18 total for both
Whomever's
lines.
going to use this.
Right.
18 and 24 hours, that doesn't seem to me to be, you know, a really hugely active bus station. And as you say, you know, people drive up, goodbye, I'm gone, and the bus leaves. You know, so will there be a restaurant in that thing?
Well, there is food service. It's not cooked. It's, you know, dispensed through personnel that are there, but
Like
they're
vending
not cooking
machines?
food, or people aren't coming there to have an evening meal or anything like that. It's just for the passengers who might be there at lunchtime or dinner.
Vending machines and that sort of thing,
That's right.
for whatever they have. Okay. Well, that would answer James' question.
No one has signed up.
Well, my concern is not so much the traffic. I think that's been addressed, getting the buses in, getting them out, even though I agree with Bob's comment that there's a lot going on right there. My concern is, looking at the design of this, you have basically 5 bays for buses there. And I can see how the bus pulls in, loads, unload. But it appears to get out, basically what they have to do is back up into what I'll call a queuing area, for the lack of a better term.
I'm sorry? Oh.
Out of these stalls, a given bus is going to apparently have to back up and queue back onto the driveway out to Reno. Is that correct?
Right.
And again, I'm not saying there's going to be 18 buses there at one time. They can't. There's only 5 slots. But I'm wondering if by design we want to do something that requires a bus to leave, to back up. I'm wondering if, you know, if there's pedestrian traffic in there, they're going to be backing over people. I see how they can pull in okay. I'm not sure how they get out safely.
Let me show you a little rendering of our design.
While you're doing that, I'll say that the concern that I would raise, and I don't know anything at all about the operation of bus stations, kiss and drive or otherwise, but there's not a lot of parking here. And you're next door to a hotel, and maybe they'd be glad to, you know, see a little overflow in exchange for overflow from you, so to speak. I don't know, but it just doesn't seem to me like there's much parking.
Well, we have 3 employees, assuming they all came in separate cars. That leaves, I think, 15 spaces. 12, excuse me. That leaves 9 spaces. I believe there are.
At the rendering you handed out, and this is just great pictorial example of what I'm talking about. All these buses, basically shown here, have to back up essentially to the same queuing position to pull back out onto Reno. And in your example, let's just say bus number 1, the one with the white top, is loading or unloading people, and the bus down farthest to the top with the blue top, it's time for him to leave. He's backing up. All these people are traversing back and forth to the building, and we have buses backing up to queue to leave.
Nick, the way the pedestrian traffic flows is the parking that is in the front, there will be a fence there to keep the pedestrians from crossing into the bus area. They would go into the station, buy their ticket, and then they exit out the east side. You can see we don't have any doors or windows drawn in.
I see that, and I understand that, but I also understand herding cats. If I get out of the bus, basically what you're saying is to load or unload from the bus, I'm supposed to turn left if I'm unloading out of the bus door, walk down the sidewalk in front of the bus to the building. But being somewhat independent, I see people will have a tendency to turn, in this example, right and walk behind the bus also.
Well, unfortunately, with our previous site, you have to have an open area behind the bus.
I'm not lobbying for the previous site. Don't get me wrong.
And I'm just saying that.
But I'm saying here's an opportunity, design-wise, to design something better than the previous site. And I'm not sure this is it. I guess that was my question.
Well, let me just key on what Commissioner Gales just said, is that, well, you say, Roland, that the passenger traffic is going to be directed into the building and out where they get on the bus with some organized, or some organization. Your drawing belies that, because for the passenger car, the one that's parked closest to where the buses come in, that fellow pulls up there, is in a hurry, and he's going to get out of his car and not go to the passenger terminal. He's going to go right straight across where the buses are backing up. I mean, that's human nature, is that if I'm close enough to go to where the buses are, I'm going to go that way, and there's no way to restrict the walking people to come around that fence and go right straight where these buses are coming back and forth.
Well, he's going to have to get a ticket. So he's going to, this customer has got to go inside to get a ticket.
This is my point, is that he parks there, and he goes around there and goes into the building where the people are coming out to get his bus ticket. Or, I'm assuming that bus tickets are available online these days.
Probably so.
Just everything else is, so he would have a ticket, and he has 3 minutes to get the bus. And so he parks there and runs in, and the way that the bus station is today, small little place, you've got to go in and then get on the bus. The terminal, the way it is here, it's just you've got to, and so I agree with Nick that there's a danger of you under the bus, so I'm not sure that this design is the safe design.
But Bob, if you look at the Union bus station, you have the same situation. There's a place where someone can walk behind a bus. If you look at the design that was previously presented in the old case, a passenger could walk behind a bus. I don't know how you can operate a bus station without having some possibility of a passenger getting around all the signs and the directions and so forth.
And another comment that has nothing to do with people getting hit and pulled under a bus, what's that great big pole?
There's an existing sign pole there.
There's nothing on it. Well, do you intend for there to be a great big existing?
There actually is something on it. I don't know whether you saw the picture in the paper on Monday of the bus terminal, but the site, there was a sign visible on it. So there is an existing sign, which, would probably have Greyhound on it instead of for lease.
This is my editorial comment, the 200th one. We need to work on our sign ordinances to stop this stuff. Just to, when it's abandoned, you take it down, and you have a relatively good sign policy that we don't have. So that has nothing to do with this application, but it's just that we need to work on the ordinance. We ought to have a meeting on that.
I'm not aware of your concerns, but thank you.
While all this was going on, and Janice's comment about the parking, I got to thinking about who rides buses and what happens when they get to the bus station. If you've ever watched the buses unload it, most of these people aren't going to cars that are parked there that somebody's picking them up. They're going to walk somewhere or walk to a bus stop or something like that. Again, I think they're going to turn out and walk through the main driveway. It just doesn't look like it looks like the design could be improved or should be improved.
I mean, I don't know how you keep somebody under any design from walking to the back of the bus. I mean, it's just short of, I guess, putting up I don't know. Here's a member, a guy.
I'm not saying I'm going to keep them from walking behind the bus. I'm going to say if it was designed that the bus didn't have to back up and back over these people, that's what I'm concerned about. And again, I'm not trying to play architect here because I'm not. But if somehow you could cue this where the buses could load, unload, and then when it came time to leave, they go out forward instead of having to back up and re-queue. That's what I'm taking exception to. That's what I think is the risk. I've said it 1,000 times. It's not our job to design, and I'm not trying to do that. I'm just saying I don't know that I can support this particular design.
Okay, Roland,
This is Mr. Hawkins. He's the area manager.
Yes, with Greyhound Bus Lines, Robert Hawkins, 400 South Monroe, Amarillo, Texas. One thing I did want to bring up is it is Greyhound's policy that when a bus backs up that we have a spotter in back of the vehicle. So in the drawings, there won't be any people in back of the buses. There will be a queuing line from the building that goes to the front of the buses. And they are required, company policy, that there must be a spotter in back of the bus whenever a driver backs up. So I hope that helps.
Right now, the spotter's in the middle of Walker as the buses are backing out into the street, blocking traffic.
That is correct.
I don't think the condition here is much different than where it is now and what it's been for umpteen years, because
exactly.
You have to back up to get out of the terminal, and you have to go to the front of the bus to get to the terminal.
This is a more controlled backing situation now at the new site than what we have now. I mean, you have full traffic coming up and down Walker Street, is it?
Yes. Yeah.
So, I mean, they're backing right into traffic. Whereas with this, we have a more controlled area. There's no people, there's no pedestrians, there's no cars. So this is more of a controlled.
Well, and I've seen cars pull in behind the buses over here, and the people go to the car.
Right.
But like you say, when you're backing up, you've got a spotter anyway.
Right.
So.
And there will also be, in the drawings where it shows where the buses come in, that will all be striped off, buses only. No cars, there'll be signage directing the passengers where to park in the 9 parking places that are on the west side. So they will be automatically queued, whether they're driving or walking, as to where to go.
Okay. Did you want to talk to us? Yes. Come to this microphone and give us your name and address, please.
Jessica Agataria, 11315 Old River Trail, Edmond, Oklahoma, 73013.
Actually, I'm with JRS Travel Center, the business across the street where the new Greyhound's going to be going. And that intersection is a very busy intersection.
Right.
And the way the drawings are, I'm not sure how the buses are actually even going to enter, because in the mornings and in the evening when it's actually rush hour to get to work, that intersection, the light itself, I mean, even to get out of JRS, it takes a little bit of time to get out when you're on the opposite side of the street. And when the buses are getting off the freeway to get into their parking lot, they're going to stop all the traffic, and it is going to be really clustered over there. And I'm not sure if that works well with that intersection.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, we did discuss that with zoning and planning. I don't remember the gentleman's name offhand, but when we met with him, there would be signs put up that say, "Do not block driveway." Also, we had a driver and a district manager ride along Reno Street and make that left turn into and out of the area. And I can supply you with that report if you want. There was no issues with the 45-foot bus going through there.
Thank you. Commissioners, other discussion?
I'm really curious about, you've said the traffic division approved this. I mean, they said it's going to be okay.
They said the site is workable, yes.
Without any kind of signage or any kind of no left turns or any kind of other restrictions on things the way to go, backwards and forwards.
You mean on the site?
Yeah. I mean,
on the site is their issue.
What I'm saying is that I kind of would like to hear traffic talk about it. I mean, I just like to hear what they said about this, because I look at it as being a place that has a whole lot of things around it, big things. And it just seems like traffic.
We'll have them come out.
Yeah.
Not up to them to put signage on the site. It's just public. I mean, they would address issues that are on the street.
But if they said it would be better if they would put some control, if traffic, make it better, well, then I'm sure that you'd do whatever it is that would make it better, if that's what. But I just have it. Go ahead.
I guess to kind of end, it would be best to kind of do some kind of continuance on it, or do like a traffic study to see if that actually is going to even work in that location.
They're not there? Nobody back in the conference room from traffic?
Just one other comment. Jessica's site was where our prior location was. So I didn't hear any complaints then about traffic.
We're not going to get into a back and forth discussion, so just so you know. But we realize that, Roland. Okay. Thank you.
But I think signage would impair a lot of other operations there, as well as, if you prohibit turns and so forth.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the commission?
I mean, it's not that I don't believe traffic. I mean, it's not that. But I really would like to hear somebody from traffic talk about this particular site with what's around it. There's a travel center, the American Indian Center. When that opens, that's probably going to be a really popular place of visitors all over the place, and that's going to have that traffic on Martin Luther King, American Indian Boulevard, 2 hotels filled with people going. I just think that I just would like to hear somebody from traffic talk about it.
Is there a motion in there somewhere?
Well, I'd like to continue it for 2 weeks, until the next meeting. And I'd move to, that's what I'd like to see.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? What, Susan?
I mean, the one thing I would add is, that used to be a restaurant there, so it did have a lot of traffic going in and out of the site, probably more vehicles per day. These are larger vehicles, obviously. Larger vehicles are obviously easier to see. So, it's going to be used for something. That's the point.
Nick?
Continuance request,
I was about to ask.
okay with the applicant?
That'll be fine. Is that the 12th?
Be 2 weeks to the 12th of April.
And I apologize, but because all I wanted to hear the traffic guys say, all these things that I have a question about have been addressed, and with the rules that we have, it's okay. But, we've got them.
Roland, if you could call me, I had somebody offer some, that may be willing to offer some free advice on the site design.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to continue item 7 until the 12th of April. Cast your votes, and it's continued.
Item 8 has been continued until April the 12th. Item 9 is SPUD 656, application by Kelly Arbazad to rezone 7200 North May from PUD 158 and the R1 Single Family District to SPUD 656 in Ward 2.
Good afternoon. I'm Kelly Arabizad, 7207 North May Avenue, Oklahoma City.
Have you seen the staff's report?
Yes.
And there's a TE that said there shouldn't be any access on Lancaster. Are you in agreement with that TE?
No, we're not. This currently has a PUD 158 on the first 2 lots, which does include access off of Lancaster.
Do you have a rendering of what the south face of the building would look like?
Of the south facing?
In other words, the houses to the south, or someone in that house, what will they be looking at? What will the building look like?
Did we give you the south facing? Let me see. I believe we have it for landscaping on the south, but I don't believe we have the...
It's going to be the side of the building. I do think that the issue on Lancaster is a huge issue, especially with the existing residential structures to the south. I'm not crazy about this to start with. We've sort of abandoned May Avenue. It's, going to be just completely stripped out from one end to the other, and, it's like we're just throwing up our hands saying there's nothing we can do about it. There is an existing PUD, and there's not much to be done about that, but I'm not in favor of increasing the depth of it. Certainly not if there's going to be access on Lancaster. So.
My comments are similar about this because all I see is what's a material tilt-up concrete building with very little architectural amenities encroaching to the east into the residential area, and you're backing up to a house on the north, and 4 slots of unknown use that can have a pawn shop, a payday loan, a laundry thing, and a liquor store. And then you have all that going off of Lancaster. I can't support it.
The R1...
It's a strip shopping center on May.
Yes, it would be...
Made of concrete, and I've seen too many of those.
We currently have the PUD for the first 2 lots.
I understand that.
The only reason we're asking is the 3rd lot.
And that's encroaching to the neighborhood to the east, and I'm not in favor of that either.
Okay, the lot directly north of us, which is also built, they have a lot that extends further east than we would extend already.
I understand.
And so we're just asking just for the 3rd lot, primarily just for additional parking spaces.
But all I'm saying is the way this application is, with the materials that you're going to be using, and the way there's no architectural amenities whatsoever, it's a strip shopping center, and you can have a payday loan, laundry, pawn shop, and a liquor store. That's your uses.
Right.
That's
We
what the-
don't have to have that type.
You have,
We would like
your application has those uses in there as being authorized.
Yes.
That's what you've asked for.
Actually, that's what the Planning Commission put in. We asked for limited use on it. We're not set in stone that, on the uses on it.
Well, I'm hearing two different stories here all of a sudden. I'm looking at my application, which is, as Commissioner Bright just explained, which has a curb cut out into Lancaster,
Yes.
and you're saying I need that access. And then I hear you say, well, what we want here is primarily for parking. Okay? And I will agree with you, if you look to the north, what's north of you slightly does go a little farther east than what you have. I understand that. But if you want this primarily for parking, my suggestion would be to continue this application, amend it to make it for parking, show us what it's going to look like, show us how you're going to landscape it to buffer the neighborhood to the east, and bring it back. In its present form, I don't think I can support it. You've already heard Commissioner Bright say he can't support it. It's good. The intensive nature of this application is going too far into the neighborhood. We've tried to draw the line down May Avenue. I think we've been fairly successful in doing that, and this goes against what we've been trying to do.
Right, and the reason we're asking for the entrance onto Lancaster Lane is because if we only have one entrance on May Avenue, we have the building across the street. We own and occupied that building across the street. We've been there for nearly 27 years, and we have, in the last 10 years, our entrance exit off of North May Avenue has been shut down for at least a week at a time. If we didn't have our access onto Northwest 71st, our employees, our customers, they would have no access to our business during that time. And there's a building about 7500 block of North May that they've had their North May entrance closed for the past few weeks. If they didn't have their entrance exit off of Country Club Drive, they couldn't do business either. They would have no access to their retail shopping center either. And so, it's a secondary entrance. We, want to direct traffic to the primary entrance off of May Avenue. We would have directional signs stating, only making right turns out to go on to May Avenue. And we want to restrict this to kind of light commercial use. We're not in favor of a liquor store, grocery store, or anything like that putting in there.
Let me kind of cut the conversation short here. We've got 3 out of the 6 of us, as I listen to the discussion today, that are not in support of the application as I see it before us.
Okay.
And we would like to work with you so that you can get this developed. So I would suggest taking at least a couple of weeks, responding to some of these comments, sitting down with our staff. This is Ward 2. Janice Powers is the Ward 2 commissioner. I would suggest you get together with her, and maybe on April 12th, we'll have an application that people will be comfortable with and you can go through.
Okay.
So that's my recommendation to you.
Okay.
So would you be comfortable with the 2-week continuance?
Yes, that's fine.
All right, then I move to continue this application for 2 weeks.
We have a motion and a second to continue item 9 for 2 weeks. We'll see you then. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Item 10 is C-6322. This is the final plat of Princeton Park in Ward 8.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. My name is Dwight Butler with Anchor Engineering. I represent the applicant on this item. I do have the correct staff report with me today and have read the TEs and do agree with all and would respectfully request the variance to TE number 4.
No one has signed up, Commissioners. Discussion?
Move approval of the variance.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the variance to TE4. Cast your votes. That is approved.
Move approval of the application.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 10. Cast your votes. And that's approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Items 11 and 12 have been continued until April the 12th. Item 13 is PC 10304, an application by Nuwana Asana to rezone 1045 Hoyt Avenue from R1 Single Family to C3 Community Commercial in Ward 7.
Hello, I'm Gwana Asana, and my address is 744 Northwest 115th Street, Oklahoma City.
Okay, Commissioners, no one has signed up. It's been suggested to you that you consider a C1 designation rather than a C3 designation. Has the staff talked to you about that?
Yes, sir. I think a C1 would work as well.
C1 would work for you? No one has signed up, Commissioners? Staff had recommended a C1 or a SPUD, and he's agreeable to a C1.
Well, my only concern was with C3 and all the C3 uses. C1 takes that away. If you are agreeable to amending to C1, I would move approval with that amendment to C1.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve item 13 as a C1 application. Cast your votes. And you're approved. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Item 14 is PUD 1454, an application by Brent Cook and On Point Construction to rezone 10930 South Harrow Road from PUD 924 to PUD 1454 in Ward 4.
Ross Morris of Morris Engineering, representing the applicant. This is a piece of property that was previously PUD'd, I think it was 04, 05. My client, and it never has been developed. My client is wishing to do a rural development there, as well as we've got in the PUD for mining. He believes there's some select material up there that could be sold for roadway purposes, etc. So we do have that in the PUD to request that. We've got 39 or 37 one-acre lots that will be in there. With the mining, there will be a big lake that's in there, and I think, well, you've got the preliminary plat. You can see that too. But we do agree with the TEs, and I think there are some protesters here would ask it for approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Well, Ross, I'm confused. Which are you asking for? Are you asking for the mining permit or a subdivision?
Well, we're asking for the subdivision, but in the PUD we have the permit to mine it. We're going to do that first, and then the subdivision comes after that is done.
What kind of mining operation is it going to be?
Just digging dirt. I mean, they're going to dig into a bank. Yeah.
And then after the mining operation, it's going to be a lake?
Yeah, there'll be a lake in that right there.
But there's only going to be one way in and one way out?
Yes, there will be one way in and one way out for the residential. They're off of Harrow Road. Now, 104th Street to the north the right-of-way is existing. There's actually a rural type road, gravel road, that extends for a half mile, and there's actually one house back in there that it serves. But we do have access to 104th and can use that for the mining operation so that the trucks aren't coming out onto Harrow Road at that location.
I'm a little bit concerned with the one way in and one. Is it going to be a gated area or?
No, sir. No, sir. It's going to be 1 acre tracts.
What about the noise and dust? This is the unfavorable consideration. Noise and dust having a negative effect on surrounding residential property owners. On the aerial map, I'm not sure I see any I'm not sure where they are. Well, I know, but there's some up to the north. Yeah. But there's nothing in the TEs that requires you to water this property when you mine it?
In the PUD, there's requirement that with permit to mine, that we have a watering operation. We have in there for reseeding and re-establishing the vegetation. It would leave, I think there's a tree buffer allowed around it to hold down the noise and the dust.
Is that a permit requirement also? If it were not in the PUD, wouldn't it still be required?
State mining permit will be required.
Right, and that's kind of what brought all this about, was they got to the state, and the state said, no, you've got to go to the city, you've got to get zoning.
My question specifically has to do with the noise and the dust and all of that. Isn't that part of the requirement of a permit? I mean, even if those requirements were not built into the PUD, wouldn't they be required to do those things anyway?
The dust is into the PUD, and there's also noise requirements in the zoning ordinance that have to be met.
For those of you who stood up, you've signed up, so I will call you as I get your name, so you will have an opportunity.
Chairman, I don't know if everyone's or anyone's aware of, there was a similar operation to this out on Northeast 122nd Street, just east of Eastern or Martin Luther King. I think it predates most people. But what happened is, and the risk of these type of operations is, I think you really need to, in evaluating this case, evaluate it first as a mining deal, because there's no assurance that we're ever going to build the lake and that we're ever going to build houses around it. And if you drive out on the Northeast 122nd, that's exactly what happened. We have a big hole in the ground, and that's where it stopped. They got the dirt out. They basically abandoned the site. It's just there. So I'm not saying don't approve this. I'm saying I think you really need to look at it as first a mining operation, and guess what? Later on, they may build some RA houses around it.
As we follow on to Nick, to what you said, as I was reading this, I look at it as we've looked at other either mining operations or transfer sites, and we have a lot of controls on hours of operation, access, keeping streets clean. I mean, there are a bunch of things that are not addressed in this today that I would want to see included before I was to consider this application for a mining operation.
Not only that, but there's a mining operation right now that's in operation just west of Midwest Boulevard on the north side of 36th Street. It may be in Spencer. That's the worst looking, I mean, it almost looks like a dump yard. And, you know, I sure don't want something like that. And the only way that I would even consider this thing is to have some kind of limit on how long it's going to take you to do this mining, and have some kind of an assurance that you're going to do the plat after the mining is done. And I don't know how we do that. I don't know how we go about that.
Well, it's a 10-year permit that they're asking for in this application, but there are other conditions that I think would need to be incorporated before this was...
Well, again, Mr. Chairman, that was my point, and maybe I didn't express it very clearly. If someone brought us a mining application, it would look entirely different from this PUD application. We have a zoning case here with kind of mining in the back door, if you will. Well, mining is the primary deal here, at least initially. And so, you know, my recommendation would be to bring it back as a mining permit. We'll consider the mining, and certainly don't mind zoning it RA if if there's a mining permit. But
I think though, if
I'm
I
concerned.
understood what Jim was saying, that he wants some assurance that the plat will be put in place, that's not necessarily, I don't think, so difficult. I mean, they're presented here together, and we could, consider them and approve them together. Whether it'll ever actually get built is another story. And I don't think we have any control over that. But if we are going to address them together, then I think there certainly needs to be some effort put into that half of it as well. And the issue, for instance, with respect to ingress and egress, limited to a single point, is problematic in my view. So
reclamation's an issue that, the site that Jim described obviously didn't have that kind of a requirement. We would have to have that assurance in the mining portion of this application.
Absolutely.
Regardless of what we did with respect to a subdivision request. This needs work, I think, before we, at least before I would consider hearing it and certainly approving it.
So the mining permit you're talking about is permit from the city or the state?
Well, you'd need both.
Well, right, but I can't get the state until I get the city.
No,
And
for
that's what
us-
they've said.
And I guess JJ needs to speak to this more than I do, but it's a special permit through the city first, and then, yes, the state also, but both of those address size, bank slopes, reclamation, environmental issues, all of that is what we typically see in one of those applications. None of that is included in this application. That's what troubles me.
Depth is another thing too, and
well, there were several things as I read through.
well, even the staff is recommending 10 p.m. For work to complete. I would not be along with that at all. I would say some more like 5:30 or 6. There's a lot of things. And I don't know whether the other side wants to talk or not, but I'm ready to make a motion.
Well, I'll ask all of you who have signed up. We're happy to hear you right now. We're obviously, as I read the group, not going to approve this today. It's going to have to come back to us as a much more thorough, detailed, and complete application for us to consider it. If you have any ideas you'd like to express right now, we'd be happy to hear you. We need a name and address for our record as you speak to us, please.
Yes, sir. My name is Charlie Watley. I live at 11,000 South Harrow Road. And also, we are a resident there, and this property was developed in 2006. When we moved in, we were actually, let's say 2006, we were sold the same program. It was going to be a community, it's going to be a thriving community, home was going to be built, and now here we are, 6 years later, myself and one other family has moved in there, and nothing has happened, except what you don't see to the north, that property was also a part of the community. And as you just said, they attempted to supposedly build a house there. But what was built, they started a digging operation, the same as been described. They started a mining operation, and it got shut down, and it got left. And it's an eyesore. And it detracted from my property as it is right now. The very same thing is being proposed is what happened. And we have a total problem with that. My house is right on the easement to the north, right there where it's plotted to the main road, that easement. That is part of my property. I have that 5-acre tract there that would run directly down my line, my house. And you're talking noise, dust, and everything else that you described. And definitely, that's something we do not want to see, because based on what we bought into a community as we thought, that didn't happen. And now we're getting ready to be subject to the same thing again with a promise. We're going to be in a community where it still hasn't developed. And since we've been into that community, we have certain issues that haven't been addressed that was promised. We're those some other things as far as that road, which was the easement that was going to be developed, and we were going to build our driveway off of that. That didn't happen. This past week, that total road was washed out. So these things haven't happened. So me personally, I have no confidence in anything that's being said is going to be developed. None whatsoever. So right now, yes, I'm a little bit upset that that will be proposed and haven't lived up to the current development they said they were going to develop. See, and all of that is plotted out, it's zoned out. That's my property there, the other neighbors, their property is not in there, and they basically zoned us out of there. And they're trying to do the same thing. So we just have a real serious issue with that. You know, if the integrity was there in the beginning when we bought in, we saw some of those things with a real intent, you know, we would not have a problem. And just south of us, north rather, there is a community that offered all those things that we both could easily bought into, and we'd have been in a community. But we chose this community, and none of that has transpired. And so we have zero confidence, I don't personally, that will have happened 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Here we are 6 years from now, and still nothing has transpired, but yet an offer of the same thing, and someone else going to end up getting the same thing we got. They're going to buy into it, and they're going to end up with the same thing. So that is my concern, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
We're living that today.
We'd welcome you back on the 12th of April as well, assuming that they have an application that's ready to be heard.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I also would certainly recommend that these neighbors be contacted in advance of that meeting and shown whatever plans are going to be presented and have an opportunity to review them independently and offer whatever comments they choose to offer at that time.
Anyone else?
While they're coming up, Mr. Chairman, I have a question. If they bring this back as a special permit, is that a separate application or won't it require separate notice? So it can't come back to us on April 12th?
No, I was about to ask J.J. when it would have to come back. That was going to be one of my questions. But yes, ma'am. Give us your name, please. And
My name
address.
is Heather Simmons. I live where that little rectangle is. That's my property. And like he said, just down on 104th and a little bit south of that, there's been for 3 years now, we moved in 3 years ago, it's all cleared all the way back to where they want to build that. And nothing has been done. You see, just animals out there is all you see. You see goats, cows, whatever, but that's it. And occasionally you'll see a truck going all the way back. I don't know what they're doing back there because you never hear anything. But they just go back there and it is gated. Because there is a sign on Harrow Road directly south of where our property is that says that they are offering a reward because people are stealing things. And it does require, a gate and everything like he's saying. So that road right there is part mine and part his. So if you take and go up and down that constantly, how am I going to get my kids to school? It's not going to happen. I have 2 kids in elementary and a little one that's 2 years old. How am I going to keep them inside? I mean, you can't take the only way in and out of our property. It's really not good for anybody. When you have 2 other entrances that already have a dirt path back to where you want to be, that has been undeveloped and undone with anything for 3 years, but you want to go and build something else that isn't going to be anything done with it either. I mean, I don't see it happening. If that other property's been sitting there with nothing done with it for 3 years, I don't see him building anything back there. I mean, there's nothing that I can even see them working at.
Okay, thank you.
Wasn't the roads cut on this back 2 or 3 years ago?
Not on this one. Well, they did do a little bit of work back in there. The development to the north, that one was cut for quite a while before they paved it, and they paved it and they're selling back in there.
Okay, J.J., can you, what would be the turnaround time for a special permit for mining here and a new notice?
We need at least to go to the 26th.
26th of April, that be enough time?
26th of April.
That means you've got a lot of work to do, Ross.
Well, will it go as a special use permit or as a plan unit development? Can it be, we're going to have to, I will not vote for that unless we can put some really, really strenuous parameters on the thing. And I don't know where we can do that legally or not.
Yes, we can.
We can.
Okay.
We can.
But,
So would this still be a PUD? I mean, are we still going to, because the current PUD allows residential. So do I need the PUD or do I just come back with just a special use permit? Or, I mean, the only thing on the actual PUD, the original PUD allows for manufactured housing. We took that out.
Right.
So on this PUD, I mean, if you're just looking at just rezoning, the PUD is not that much different from the original one. So do I need a PUD or do I need a special permit?
Well, I think that depends on what your client wants to do with his land. What we're saying is, because you have a mining operation, whether it's on the existing PUD or on the one that's before us today, before we approve a mining operation, we want to see it in special permit form that can address all the concerns that have been expressed today, and with some limitations. Because I'm with Commissioner Allen. If we just want to go dig dirt, and we're going to do it helter-skelter any time of the day or night, it doesn't sound like a good deal to me. Maybe a good deal to the guy that wants the dirt. I understand that, but we need a special permit regardless of what your intent for the ultimate development of the land is. And sure, if you want to change it to R2 type zoning, you need to rezone it. But
So I guess the special permit is a separate item on its own then.
that's what we want it to be. It's what you've done is you kind of backdoored it here in this PUD, and it's just wide open carte blanche. Oh, by the way, in the next 10 years, I'm going to dig this big hole and maybe stick some 2-acre houses around it. Well, we want to know how you're going to dig the hole and what kind of constraints, hours, and all those things that go into those special permits. And then, and I'll tell you up front, as far as I'm concerned, you bring us a special permit application just because it's in that form. I don't think that's, in my mind, that's not a slam dunk. I'm not going to automatically vote for it. It's got to have some real teeth, or I can't support this thing. I'll just tell you that now.
Okay.
And that's my sentiments also, so.
These people are concerned about promises that they feel were made to them that have not been yet accomplished, shall we say. And I wonder, are we dealing with the same developer, the same owner here?
Well, on the parcel to the north, well, they're at 104th, on the southeast corner, 104th and Hera, there's a 40-acre that was sold to somebody else. And they came in and did dig some dirt out, and I don't know what all they did. I mean, they did something there, but there is some, you can see, I mean, drive through there, he did a lot of clearing, I know that. But this original parcel is the same person that originally had it. He's, I guess, has tried different options. And, he's trying this to see if this will work and something he can do to actually make the development happen.
Maybe I'm asking the wrong half of this. Are we talking about the same person that you feel like has made promises to you? Then I would suggest that you have some fences to mend here, and that you need to put some energy into that.
And yes, ma'am, yes, we are, because to my knowledge, they were in partnership when we originally bought in, and whatever happened between them is dissolved. That partnership I do not privy to. But as I said, we were promised certain things, made certain assurances, pretty much the same thing we're hearing. It's going to be a thriving community, this, that, and other. And they said all we got was commercial business on the other end that started digging dirt, same thing. And then the neighbors across the street through the zoning commission got them shut down because they were digging dirt. They were ATVing, keeping up dirt. They were down there shooting with fire.
Well, I mean, without going into...
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I mean, that's all right. That's all right. I mean, this is where you get to be heard. But without going into all of that, I think it's clear that there's some fence bending that needs to be done there.
Okay.
If you're going to bring this thing forward.
Okay.
Well, I think the point is clearly, regardless of the history, you need to talk to the neighbors who are here today who are concerned about what might happen there and how it might affect them, along with meeting with JJ and maybe
I would be willing to
maybe
meet
James.
with y'all also. And if you would, I'd like for you to get their names and make sure they're contacted.
Sure.
Okay. Well, we're going to then take a motion to continue this to April 26th, and you've got, I guess, an option, Ross, of, as I understand it from Susan, of either a special permit for the mining portion or a very detailed PUD that spells out all the mining controls.
So that, that's they're trying to get this understood, what I need to do.
What legal tells me.
So the PUD wouldn't have any of the mining stuff in it. It'd be in a total separate item on the permit. So if I had both, I'd have a mining permit and then a PUD.
You can get there two ways.
Okay.
You can either file an application for a special permit, and do all the things that go along with the special permit application,
And no rezoning.
or you can add all those special permit requirements into the PUD you have currently pending.
And then I wouldn't have a special permit, separate application.
No.
That's what
It's your option to go that way if you want.
I don't know, I was hearing that you wanted to see the special permit before you see anything else.
Well, I want it to be a special permit, all the things that we address in the special permits, whether it's a separate deal or not. I was trying to give him the option of coming back with a special permit. I agree with JJ. I can see that's embedded, and for that matter, it's embedded in here now. It's just not they're just saying, give us basically the special permit, give us approval for this use, and without any of the constraints that go into the special permit application process. If all those are addressed in the PUD, I'm fine with that.
What implications would there be in terms of enforcement between a special permit for a mining operation and a PUD? Now, I think that might be relevant.
I mean, what I heard was there was uncertainty about the residential element of this, and that was confusing the analysis of the application for the mining. So
I think that's accurate. I'd like to see them separate. I think he needs both, but...
But I think, Janice, that...
Legally speaking, whether it can be accomplished that way or not, I don't have a strong feeling about that, except that I want to be sure that the enforcement capability is there and in the right place.
That's true. For what Nick said, though, about the example on Northeast 122nd, is that this guy was going to do a residential development, and he mined, and it ain't ever going to happen. I mean, I think that that's where this is, so it doesn't matter 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, if it's combined or if it's two separate ones, as long as the special permit conditions, as outlined by us, Jim, the things that we want to see, and I'll repeat what Nick said, is that I'm not sure, I've got to see exactly what you're doing and have this conversation with the neighbors and all the other things that we're talking about, because just because we're saying come back with a special permit, there's zero guarantee that I'm going to be in favor of it unless it has all of those things in it, and I think, Jim, that's what you're saying, too.
It's exactly right. Now, and I don't know where we can put a time limit on say let's put 2 years on. If you don't have it done in 2 years, you've got to come back to us.
Yes, we can.
And if you don't do a good job in that 2 years, you ain't going to get no other permit, put it bluntly.
Yeah, that's another factor, is how long is this going to go on? The one you're talking about is still out there.
Well, it's done and abandoned and hadn't been reclaimed or anything, but yes, Jim, we do that all the time. That's part of the deal. We can put varying time limits on things.
Can we do that in a PUD?
I don't know why we couldn't.
Sure. Yeah, it's in here in the present application at 10 years. We can make it 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever we think is an appropriate point of review.
Yeah. I just say, I don't mind it being in the PUD, but all I'm saying, I want the restraints on it, and I think this is what these folks out here are wanting, is restraints. And I'm not telling you that I'm going to be for it even if we go through those, unless those folks are for it. And I don't, I understand where they're coming from, and I think, Ross, you probably do too. And I wouldn't want the thing in my backyard unless it was, properly done, properly controlled, and properly policed. And believe me, if I do vote for it, I will police it, and you can bet I will do that. I've done it on landfills. I'm still doing it on landfills, and I'll do it on this one too. Okay?
Okay.
I don't know what kind of power I got, but at least
I was going to say this.
You're not carrying a weapon, are you?
You're our enforcement guy right here.
All right, on item 14, we'll take a motion to continue the item to the 26th of April, and we'll...
Second.
Okay. Cast your votes. No, well, I just pulled the switch back. Go ahead.
Well, the companion to this is item 15.
Well, I know that.
Yeah. So I didn't know if we wanted to do them together. But
I wanted to have a separate vote
now
on each
that
one,
we
but...
voted on that one, let's talk about 15, and we'll vote on it.
Okay. A motion on item 15. Continue it until the same date.
Continue it also.
Motion and second to continue item 15. Cast your votes. And that's continued as well. That's the residential portion. And hopefully we get this worked out in the next month.
Item 16 has been continued until April the 26th. Item 17 is an ordinance for public hearing relating to development regulations in the downtown design districts for providing for materials placed, used, or stored on balconies.
Yeah, this is my only comment. I think Commissioner Allen ought to be the enforcer of this ordinance. Because I don't know how it could ever be enforced.
Well, do you want to recommend it to council, forward it without action? What do you want to do?
Let it go up to council.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, I move this so that it pass on to council.
Is there a second? Second. Okay. Motion on item 17 to forward this to council without comment. Cast your votes. And that's approved. Now, all of you folks in the audience, any of you come here to talk to us today, or are you just here to observe? Yeah. We're happy to hear you if you have anything you'd like to address us about. Okay. Planning Commission committees. Planning Commission members. Planning Department, Russell?
Nothing exceptional. Upcoming CAT Citizens Advisory Team meetings. And
Development Services.
you want to mention the cell tower? All right.
Okay, Municipal Councilor's Office. If there's no other business, a motion to adjourn? And we're adjourned.